Hey, it's Matthew James with Mile High Flight Academy, and I want to show you guys the 22-point flight planning checklist. At this point, you guys have probably already downloaded it. If you haven't, check your email or check the training portal, and make sure you guys download this flight planning checklist as we're going through it. You guys can print this half size, take it with you, put it on your knee board. Whatever the case, make sure that you use this as a checklist every single time you guys go out flying. So let's make sure you guys get the 30,000 foot overview, understand exactly how this works. So the first thing you guys need to do, if you haven't already, make sure that you guys get your coffee, your tea, your whatever caffeine fix. Maybe you guys just wake up and get yourself a cup of water in the morning. Whatever it is that works for you guys, make sure that you guys do that. It doesn't have to be coffee, but I just happen to drink that. So all right, the next thing you do, turn on the weather channel, check your METARs and TAFs, check weather and NOTAMs.com. Make sure that you're checking the weather so that you know what it's going to be. You can check this, start this process a few days out if you need to, so that you guys have an idea of what you're looking at. What you're looking at. Remember, as time draws near, the weather forecasts get more accurate. Okay, I'm sure you guys probably already figured that part out, but just make sure you guys get a preliminary weather check, because if there's hurricanes and tornadoes coming, you might as well just bail out on the rest of this checklist and just plan on another day for flying, okay? All right, next step is eat a good breakfast. Make sure that you guys eat something good, get your protein in, make sure that you're getting some nutrition of some sort so you don't get out to the aircraft and you end up hungry 2 hours into your flight. That's going to impair your judgment. We don't want that to happen to you. That's part of your death checklist or your I am safe checklist. We don't want those human aeromedical factors happening to you. So next thing you want to do, check your flight bags, your survival bags. Make sure that before you leave the house, you've got your bags checked, you got your headsets, you got your two-way radios, your knee board, notepads, pens and pencils, papers, VFR sectionals, all the pubs that you need. Make sure that you grab all of this stuff. If you guys need some Cliff Bars, make sure you throw that in there. Maybe one of those little space age blankets that you guys take along, just in case you guys end up in making a precautionary landing somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and it takes a while to get somebody there. That's why we have survival bags. This kind of thing happens, so don't be invincible. Don't feel invincible, because it could happen to you. It's happened to me before. So next thing, make sure that you've got your keys, your wallet, your cell phone, pilot certificate. Make sure that you have all this before you leave the house, because you don't want to get to the airport. A lot of people fly to the airport. It's like 45 minutes to an hour away. You don't want to get there an hour away and find out that you're missing your wallet or your pilot certificate or your cell phone. You can't talk to anybody. All right, at this point, you're at the FBO. You're going to grab a coffee refill, and we're going to head out to the I'm sorry, we're not at the FBO yet. We're just going to leave the house. Make sure that you get your coffee refill, and then head out to the FBO. Just make sure you have everything with you. Once you're there, and guys, you could start this process at home. You could actually go through this entire process sitting in front of your computer just like this. There's no reason that with everything being digital, as long as you have a computer and internet at the house, there's no reason you can't go through this process, okay? So the next thing, we're not going to go in depth on this, not on this video. So the next thing we're going to check, we're going to do an in-depth weather check once you get to the FBO. We're going to check your METARs, your TAFs, your area forecast. We're going to make sure that, especially if you're going over multiple states, use the area forecast to check what the overall big picture weather is going to be, because you want to see what's coming, not just at where you're at. I mean, you could look into the sky right now. It might be clear blue at 22, but what's it like at your destination? You call your buddy at your destination. He says, yeah, it's clear blue 22 here as well. Great. What is it between? Okay, there's, especially on a 100-mile or 150-mile nautical mile trip, there's a lot of space to cover. So make sure you know what the weather and the weather patterns are in between you and your destination. Okay? Check your NOTAMs. If there's a NOTAM out for a runway outage at the airport that you're going to, or a VOR that you're planning to use as a nav aid, that could be a problem. Maybe there's a tower or something being erected at the airport just off the runway end. Make sure that's how you're going to find out about that kind of thing, and that's the kind of thing you want to know about beforehand, so that you can make planning consideration and decisions before you get into it. So Know about that, your NOTAMs, your winds aloft, your TFRs. Make sure you know where the president's going to be at. That's your temporary flight restrictions. There could be a baseball game. If you're flying in Florida or sunny Southern California, you got Disneyland, Disney World. There's always TFRs there. Up in Washington, D.C., I'm not even going to cover that because that's a whole issue in and of itself. But in case you didn't know, there's a 30-mile, like a 30-mile TFR that surrounds Washington, D.C. So make sure you know what you're doing if you plan on flying in there. You can still fly in there. You just have to have permissions and make sure you set it up correctly from the beginning, which, again, we're not going to cover in this video. PIRAPs, people out there always making radio calls and saying they're reporting what they see, what kind of conditions they're in, so you can tell before you go out flying if it's moderate chop up there. So make sure you know before you go. So once you have all of your weather stuff out of the way, you can make all the decisions that you need to make about your flight plan, which brings us up to the next section here. We're going to get into the actual process of building your flight plan. Again, this is just the overview. I'm just telling you guys, based on this checklist, what you guys need to get into. This is where you're going to break out your VFR sectionals. You're going to break out your iPads, whatever it is that you guys use to actually flight plan, and you're going to make sure that it's up to date for 1, 2. You're just going to get it out and start planning your flight. You can start drawing those lines, which I put right on here. Draw your lines and plan your flight out. Make sure that you have heading 1. Make sure that you get your time from one leg for each leg. Make sure that you get a heading for each leg so that you can get out there and make this flight. If your iPad goes out, if your GPS goes out, you're left with your knee board. And so make sure you write all these times and distances and headings and what they go to down on your knee board, so when everything else craps itself, for lack of better words, you still have your knee board, and you guys can still use that. We're going to talk about analyzing your alternate airports. If there's a place out there that is a longer route of flight, make sure that you have that airport, its information. Make sure you get the approach plates for it out. Make sure that you at least write down the frequencies, so that if you have a problem, we're planning on going to Gainesville on the way to Cedar Key if there's a problem, so we're just going to divert, go this way, and make the flight. Or make the diversion, make a precautionary landing. That's why we have alternates. That's good pilot decision-making skills right there. All right, let's check the frequencies, the runways, make sure that your aircraft can land there and take off from the airport that you're going to. You can check that using POH. Make sure that you're familiar with your aircraft enough to know how much runway you need to land and take off. And once you have all this information, you've used the semicircular rule, looked at your maps, you figured out what altitude you're going to fly, you know what aircraft you're going to fly, you know who's going to be on board, you know your route of flight. Once you know all this information up to this point, you can fill out the FAA flight plan form and give 1-800-WX-BRIEF a call and file your flight plan. There's other ways to do it. We get more into that in our flight planning workshops and in our courseware. But like I said, that's the quickest and easiest way to do it. Just write out what you need on the flight plan form, give 1-800-WX-BRIEF a call. From there, you guys are set. Get out there, pre-flight your aircraft, make sure you do a good, thorough job, and make your flight. Guys, that's all I've got. Thanks for listening to this flight planning checklist. I hope you guys find it helpful. If you guys have any questions at all, hit me up at support@posthousestudios.com and ask your questions. Hopefully we'll be able to address them over the email. Maybe we can address them in the workshops if we get enough of the same questions. And that's all I got, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. See you.